Have you ever wondered why you were born in that specific month at that exact moment? Most people don't. We treat time as neutral, just numbers on a calendar. But ancient wisdom suggests something very different. What if the time you arrived wasn't random, but deeply resonant? What if your soul chose that moment because it carried the precise conditions your journey needed to begin? And if that question stirs something inside you, if even a small voice says, "This is speaking to me," then I invite you to stay with this journey. Subscribe to the Awakened Pathway and walk this path of remembrance together. In the Buddhist view, reality unfolds not as a straight line, but as a dance of interdependent causes and conditions. You didn't fall into life like a leaf blown by chance. You emerged in harmony with a greater rhythm, the emotional, symbolic, and even elemental patterns of that time. Just as a seed waits for the right season to sprout, your soul waited for the moment when the world's energy matched what you came here to learn and to offer. You were not born during winter or spring, July or November, because of statistical odds. You arrived when you did because the climate of that moment, both inner and outer, offered the perfect environment for your soul's unfolding. This isn't about astrology or superstition. It's about pattern, resonance, and deep timing. It's about remembering that life has an intelligence far beyond our conscious awareness. Each month holds its own symbolic fingerprint. January carries the hush of new beginnings. June pulses with outward energy and movement. October invites reflection, depth, and letting go. These patterns are not just seasonal, they are spiritual archetypes. And being born within a specific one means your soul entered the world through that particular doorway. Modern psychology is beginning to glimpse this truth. Studies show that your birth month can influence mental rhythms, personality traits, even emotional tendencies. Circadian patterns, seasonal affective states, and even birth light exposure all shape how we feel and act. What ancient wisdom sensed intuitively, science is only starting to measure. But beyond biology, there's something deeper at play. Your birth time is not just about hormones or sunlight. It's about how the world felt when you took your first breath. The emotional energy of that moment left an imprint, not a rule, but a resonance. Like the opening chord in a song that continues to echo throughout the melody of your life. Carl Jung once said, "We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and of the season." This isn't metaphysics, it's memory. Your body, mind, and soul remember the feeling tone of your entry, and that tone subtly colors how you experience life, what you seek, what challenges you face, what draws you in again and again. This video isn't here to label you. It's here to help you listen. What if your birth month is not an accident, but an invitation? What if the world you were born into, its colors, moods, tensions, and quiet truths, has been whispering to you all along? Not to predict your fate, but to help you awaken to the patterns playing just beneath the surface. In Zen, we often say, "The way is not in the sky, the way is in the heart." To truly walk your path, you must return to where it began, not the external circumstances, but the quality of that moment. The taste of air, the pulse of time, the emotional texture of the season. Maybe you were born in April, when everything is blooming but still uncertain. Maybe in August, full of heat and boldness. Whatever month welcomed you, it left a subtle note inside you. Recognizing that note isn't superstition, it's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward freedom. So before we begin our journey through the months, take a moment. Ask yourself, what has this month always stirred in me? Is there a particular emotion, a tendency, a recurring theme I've never questioned? What if that pattern isn't a flaw, but a clue? You were not born by chance. You were born with timing, intention, and meaning, woven into every cell. And while the month of your birth does not define you, it can reveal something quietly essential about how you move through life. Not fate, not prediction, but resonance. Let us begin. The spiritual meaning of your birth month. When we think about our birthday, we often focus on the year or the exact date, something we can circle on a calendar or celebrate with cake. But have you ever paused to consider the month itself, the subtle energy, the atmosphere, the mood of the world when you arrived? Birth isn't just a timestamp. It's a moment of entry, a gateway. And the month you were born into may hold more meaning than you've ever imagined. Time, from a spiritual perspective, isn't just linear. It's cyclical. Just as nature flows through seasons, so does the human spirit. Each month carries its own rhythm, its own flavor, its own symbolic invitation. The ancients understood this. Farmers planted according to lunar cycles. Mystics meditated during solstices. Indigenous wisdom around the globe taught that when something is born, be it a child, an idea, or a season, how and when it arrives matters. So what about you? The month you were born into is more than coincidence. It is a reflection of the energetic environment your soul chose as its first breath. Whether you believe in past lives, divine timing, or just quiet mystery, consider this. Your birth month might not dictate your destiny, but it does color your lens. It may reveal what kinds of lessons, challenges, and inner callings will echo most throughout your life. This journey is not about labeling. It's about listening. Each birth month is a doorway, and now we walk through each one with open eyes, a quiet heart, and the willingness to remember what we already know deep down. If you were born in January, you arrived during the hush of the new year. The world was still, the earth often sleeping beneath snow or silence. You were born in the pause between endings and beginnings, a sacred threshold. This timing brings with it a deep spiritual potential. January-born souls often carry the energy of the bridge. You are between worlds, between old and new, between what has been and what's to come. There's a quiet wisdom to you, even if you don't always feel it. People may see you as serious or reserved, but beneath that is a steady clarity, a knowing that life is not meant to be rushed. Being born in January often points to a soul that is here to initiate, not through noise, but through presence. You may be someone who clears space, sets tone, opens paths for others, without needing recognition. Your challenges may revolve around isolation or the pressure to always be strong. But your strength lies not in perfection, but in your capacity to hold stillness in a world addicted to speed. January offers a lesson in quiet courage. You may be here to teach others how to begin again, gently, consciously, and with integrity. Your month reminds us that all great change begins in silence. If you felt different or misunderstood, it may be because you carry the blueprint of the threshold, the soul of someone born to witness, to hold, and to plant seeds that will grow in spring. Now, imagine the world at the time of your birth if you were born in February. The edge of winter, the whisper of something thawing. There's a strange, beautiful tension in this month, a restlessness wrapped in stillness. If you came into the world during February, your soul likely holds the energy of the seeker, the innovator, the bridge between earth and sky. You may have always felt a bit in between, not fully grounded, not entirely of this world. February births often come with an inner vision. You may find yourself drawn to ideals, to imagination, to the unseen patterns beneath reality. Perhaps you don't fit into conventional boxes. That's not a flaw. It's part of your design. February is a month of contradiction, the shortest month, yet carrying leap years, a winter month that aches towards spring. Similarly, your life may feel like it carries interruptions, strange timing, or emotional rhythms others don't always understand. This doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're tuned to subtle frequencies. You might feel deeply without showing it. You might sense things before others do. Your gift is perception. But that gift, if ungrounded, can feel like confusion or anxiety. The spiritual lesson of your month is to find faith not only in vision, but in embodiment. You are here to anchor your insights in the real world, not escape it. February-born souls often dance with paradox. You crave freedom, yet you long for belonging. You want a dream, but you're also haunted by a sense of responsibility. Your life may unfold in unexpected waves, not steps. But there is order in that rhythm, one only your heart truly knows. When you trust that rhythm, others feel safer in their own uncertainty too. You are not here to follow maps. You are here to chart them. Your month is a reminder that spring is born in winter's final sigh, that what seems out of place may be part of a deeper harmony, and that sometimes the soul must stand alone for a while to truly remember where it comes from. If you were born in March, your soul chose to arrive as the world began to stir again. After the hush and heaviness of winter, March breathes change. There's something trembling and raw in the air, like possibility itself learning how to walk. This isn't just spring, it's the edge of awakening, the moment before form takes shape. And if that's when you arrived, your life may echo that same edge. You may carry within you the energy of the threshold, the impulse to emerge, to express, to unfold even before you know what you're becoming. March-born souls often hold an emotional sensitivity that can be mistaken for moodiness. You feel deeply, but you may not always know how to explain it. That's because your emotional life mirrors the season of your birth, shifting, stirring, sometimes stormy, always alive. You may find yourself caught between worlds, longing for safety and craving freedom, wanting clarity and yet drawn to mystery. And that's not a weakness. It's part of your wisdom. You understand, on a cellular level, that growth never happens in a straight line. Spiritually, March carries the theme of emergence. You are here to risk visibility, to begin things, to trust the impulse to move forward even when it feels uncertain. Your gifts lie in your intuition, your empathy, and your willingness to feel before you act. But with that sensitivity comes a challenge: how to protect your heart without closing it, how to grow without rushing, how to trust the process even when nothing around you feels settled. You may find that your life is filled with chapters that feel like false starts, but they're not. They are spirals, each one bringing you closer to your center. You are not meant to be rigid. You are meant to respond, to flow, to follow the subtle cues of your own inner season. The lesson of March is to be faithful to your becoming, even when it doesn't look like progress, even when it feels messy, because every bloom begins in the dark. And then comes April, the month of bold blossoming. If you were born in April, your soul entered the world with fire beneath your feet. The earth is alive now. The trees are not whispering, they are shouting their return. April is a month of risk and reward, of vibrant color and emotional courage. And if you carry this month's energy, you may find that your life reflects that aliveness in everything you do. April-born souls often bring the medicine of action. You are here to move things, to break inertia, to speak up, to stand where others hesitate. Your presence alone can be a catalyst. People may describe you as passionate, intense, driven, and sometimes, yes, overwhelming. But that's because you don't come to tiptoe. You come to make waves, to wake the sleeping parts of the world. And while that gift is powerful, it also asks for care. Spiritually, April teaches the balance between boldness and compassion. You may feel called to lead, to act, to shine, but that light, if ungrounded, can burn. You are learning how to bring heat without scorching, how to speak truth without shutting hearts, how to channel your courage in service, not just self-expression. And that's not easy, especially in a world that often asks you to shrink. Your challenge is not your fire, it's how you hold it, how you pace it. You may struggle with impatience, frustration, or the deep grief of not being understood. You may move faster than others can follow and feel lonely in that speed. But remember, leadership is not about being ahead. It's about seeing clearly. And you, more than most, were born with eyes for possibility, with the instinct to run toward, not away, with the soul of a pioneer. April's energy is never passive. It's the dance of petals opening, of rivers thawing, of life insisting on itself. You are that insistence, and your life will likely ask you again and again, what are you willing to risk for what matters most? Not in grand gestures, but in small, daily acts of courage. Speaking up, showing up, beginning again. You are not here to play it safe. You are here to bloom loudly, to remind the world what it means to be alive in color, to live with heart wide open, even when that means breaking. Because April knows what March began, that life is. Movement, and all growth is a kind of beautiful risk. If you're starting to feel something stir, if you've heard even a small whisper of recognition in these words, this journey is for you. Subscribe to the Awakened Pathway and walk with us through the deeper meaning behind your soul's timing. If you were born in May, your soul arrived at a time when the earth was in full bloom. There's nothing shy about May. The trees are dressed, the flowers speak in color, and the air itself is alive with scent and song. This is the month when life comes into its fullness, not hurried, not hesitant, but unapologetically present. And if that's your birth month, you likely carry that same energy within you. You are here to experience life fully, not just to exist, but to embody it. May-born souls often have a strong connection to the senses. You may feel deeply nourished by beauty, comfort, touch, and nature. Your love of life isn't shallow, it's spiritual. The wisdom of May is an honoring form. In a world that often tries to rush past the moment, you are here to linger, to notice, to appreciate. That doesn't make you slow, it makes you grounded. And that grounding is a gift, both to yourself and to others. But living deeply in the senses also comes with a challenge, attachment. You may struggle with letting go of relationships, possessions, or ideas that no longer serve. There's a part of you that wants to hold, to savor, to keep. And while that desire springs from love, it can also create suffering when clinging replaces presence. Spiritually, May invites you to master the art of devotion without grasping, to love fully while knowing everything is in flux. You may be someone who builds slowly but steadily, relationships, careers, even inner wisdom. You don't rush into change, and that's not a flaw. It's your rhythm. But when forced into rapid shifts, you may feel uprooted or disoriented. The invitation is to trust that your inner security isn't in what you own or control, but in your ability to reconnect again and again to the richness of now. People may find comfort in your presence. You're not easily swayed. You listen deeply. You remind others that stability isn't boring, it's sacred. You are the warmth after the thaw, the rootedness after the uncertainty of spring's first stirrings. And just as May brings fruit after blossom, you too are here to ripen something, be it love, wisdom, or inner peace, into a life that feeds others. Now imagine the world in June. The days are long, the light is golden, and everything seems to reach its highest point. June is celebration, movement, communion. If you were born in June, your soul chose to arrive when energy is expansive, social, and expressive. And that is likely reflected in how you move through life. You may have always been someone drawn to connection, not just with people, but with ideas, stories, and experience itself. June-born souls are often natural communicators. Words matter to you, not just for expression, but for understanding. You may be the kind of person who asks big questions, who wants to know how the world works and why people feel the way they do. Your curiosity is a kind of love, and your gift is translation, taking what is complicated and making it meaningful, making it human. But living with an open mind and open heart brings complexity. You may feel scattered at times, pulled in many directions by interests, desires, or people. You may struggle with focus or with the fear of missing out. Spiritually, June teaches the balance between variety and depth. It's not about limiting your experiences, it's about learning how to carry them wisely. You are here to connect the dots, not to escape into motion, but to move with meaning. You likely have a social energy that others gravitate toward. But even extroverted souls need solitude, and your inner world is just as rich as your outer life. One of your spiritual lessons may be to honor that inner space, not just as a retreat, but as a source of guidance. You don't have to be everything to everyone. Sometimes, the deepest clarity comes in silence. June is the peak of light, but with it comes the knowing that the cycle will turn. And this too is part of your wisdom. You understand joy, but you also carry a subtle melancholy, a sense that all beauty is fleeting and therefore must be cherished even more. You may be someone who celebrates others easily but struggles to receive. The challenge here is to open not just outwardly, but inwardly, to let yourself be seen, held, and loved as fully as you offer that to others. You are the storyteller, the connector, the light that weaves people together. Your presence reminds the world that communication is not just about information, it's about intimacy. It's how we heal, how we belong. And in a time where many feel isolated, your ability to bring voices and hearts together is a kind of spiritual leadership. If you were born in July, your soul chose to arrive in the heart of summer, when the sun hangs high and the days stretch wide. This is the time when life feels warm, ripe, and deeply human. There's a softness in the air, a glow on the skin, and a quiet invitation to pause and feel. July is not a month that demands. It welcomes. It doesn't rush. It opens. If you were born then, you may carry that same warmth in your presence, a kind of emotional gravity that makes others feel at ease simply by being near you. July-born souls often radiate nurturing energy. You may have always felt like a caretaker in some form, of people, of spaces, of unspoken emotions. There's a quiet strength in you that doesn't need to lead loudly. It comforts through consistency, listens without needing to fix, and loves in a way that feels like home. And yet, this kind of emotional depth also means you feel things intensely. Your empathy is not just intellectual, it's embodied. You don't just understand what others are going through. You feel it in your chest, your stomach, your bones. This sensitivity can be your greatest gift, but also your most tender edge. You may find it difficult to protect your own energy, especially in a world that praises independence and speed. Spiritually, July teaches the power of emotional boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred containers. You are here to love deeply, but not to lose yourself in the process. The challenge is not to feel less, but to feel wisely, to recognize where your care ends and someone else's path begins. You may have a profound connection to family, either the one you were born into or the one you create. But you may also carry ancestral wounds, emotional patterns that echo through generations. The spiritual work for you may be to heal the lineage, to transform pain into compassion, silence into voice, repression into expression. You're not here to carry the weight of the past. You're here to reimagine it. And when you do, you become a soft kind of warrior, one who breaks cycles not with force, but with tenderness. If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, consider that a sign of your power. You are tuned to a different frequency, one that hears what isn't said, one that senses what's just below the surface. You remind the world that gentleness is not weakness, it is the very essence of strength. In a society that often moves too fast to feel, you are the pause, the breath, the reminder that presence is enough. Then there is August, the final full month of summer. If July is the gentle fire, August is the fierce sun. The world is fully alive, and there's a sense of culmination in the air, of things reaching their peak, of fruit ripening, of efforts being realized. If you were born in August, Your soul may carry the energy of fullness, of leadership, of unapologetic presence. You are here to stand tall, not in arrogance, but in radiance. August-born souls often come with a strong sense of self, or at least a deep desire to know who they are and to express it fully. You may feel drawn to visibility, not for ego, but for purpose. There's something in you that wants to shine, to inspire, to impact, to leave a legacy that matters. And while others may mistake that for self-centeredness, your inner truth is often rooted in service. You want your life to mean something. You want your light to warm others, not just illuminate your path. Spiritually, August carries the lesson of authentic power. You are here to explore what it means to lead from the heart, not the ego. To understand that true strength is not control, it's clarity. Not dominance, but direction. And that the brightest lights do not compete with others, they awaken them. Your challenge may be to let go of needing approval and instead anchor your worth in something deeper, your alignment with your inner fire. Because you burn so brightly, you may also experience periods of burnout. You give, you strive, you create, but you may forget to rest. Part of your spiritual journey is to learn that your value is not in your productivity. You are worthy, even when you're still, even when you're uncertain, even when you're not leading the parade. You don't have to earn love by shining. You already are love, burning, bold, and full of grace. August may also bring lessons around pride and vulnerability. You might feel pressure to always appear strong, composed, or together, but your true power lies in your honesty. When you share your doubts, your fears, your messy middle, you give others permission to be human too. Your light isn't in your perfection, it's in your realness. And in that authenticity, you become magnetic, not just admired, but deeply trusted. There's a royal quality too. August energy, not in hierarchy, but in dignity. You carry yourself with presence. People notice when you enter a room. But what matters more is how you use that presence. You are here not to rule, but to uplift. Not to command, but to invite. You are the generous flame, one that doesn't burn others down, but lights their way home. So whether your birth was under the soft moonlight of July or the blazing sun of August, know this: you were not made to hide. You were born with heart and fire, with tenderness and courage. And the world needs both. You are not here to become someone else. You are here to become more fully yourself. And every emotion, every insight, every challenge you've faced is part of that unfolding. If you were born in September, your arrival coincided with a turning point in the natural world. The air begins to cool, the light softens, and the trees begin to whisper their golden farewells. September is a month of refinement, of harvest, of graceful endings. It's not the dramatic flourish of summer nor the stillness of winter. It's the quiet precision of transition. If you were born during this time, you may carry within you the same qualities: thoughtful, observant, quietly powerful. There is often a deep inner order to September-born souls. Even if your outer world feels chaotic at times, there's a part of you that longs for clarity, for rhythm, for things to make sense. You may have a mind that never stops seeking why things happen, what connects them, how it all fits. You aren't content with surface answers. You crave meaning. You notice what others overlook. You refine what others rush. And that refinement isn't about control. It's about care. You're not trying to perfect the world to dominate it, but to honor it. Your spiritual strength lies in discernment. In a noisy world of opinions and distractions, you are the one who listens for the signal amidst the noise. But that same sensitivity can make you prone to self-criticism. Because you see so clearly, you also see what's missing, what's not quite right, what could be better in the world and in yourself. September's lesson is this: let your clarity be compassionate. Let your insights soften into kindness. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be awake. You may have high expectations, not just for others, but especially for yourself. That inner pressure can sometimes turn into anxiety or perfectionism. But what if your worth isn't in how well you perform, but in how fully you perceive? What if your gift is not in fixing everything, but in helping others see more clearly? The challenge is to remember, precision is beautiful, but not more sacred than presence. Structure matters, but so does softness. Let your brilliance breathe. You are likely someone others turn to for wisdom, for integrity, for quiet guidance. You don't shout your truth, you live it. You remind people that depth is still possible in a shallow world. And you help restore the sacred art of thinking clearly, of feeling honestly, of living intentionally. September calls forth the teacher, the healer, the one who holds space not with grandeur, but with grace. Then comes October, when the world begins to wear its impermanence openly. The leaves fall, not in protest, but in beauty. The air carries both memory and mystery. If you were born in October, your soul arrived during a time of balance, when light and dark meet in equal measure, and everything seems to whisper of deeper truths. This is the month of paradox, where life and death, gain and loss, joy and grief all dance together. And if you were born then, you may feel all of that in your bones. October-born souls often live close to the veil, the space between seen and unseen. You may have always sensed more than what was spoken, felt more than what was shown. There is a mystic quality to your presence, even if you don't identify with that word. You carry the ability to sit with complexity, to hold space for beauty and sorrow at the same time. You don't flinch from the dark, you understand that it's part of the light. Your gift is depth, but your challenge may be balance. Because you feel deeply, you may sometimes get lost in the depths of emotion, of overthinking, of others' energy. October teaches the dance between intimacy and detachment. You are here to connect fully, but not disappear into connection. You're not meant to carry what's not yours. You're meant to see clearly, feel deeply, and then return to center. You may also have a strong aesthetic sense, a love for beauty, harmony, atmosphere. But this isn't shallow or decorative, it's spiritual. You understand that what surrounds us shapes what we feel, that colors speak, that music heals, that space matters. You bring elegance to experience, not for show, but as a form of devotion. You make the world more soulful by simply being in it. Relationships may play a major role in your journey. You're not here to do life alone, but you may also have lessons around boundaries, codependence, or emotional merging. Spiritually, you are asked to learn how to love without losing yourself, to honor connection and separation, to understand that intimacy is not just closeness, it's clarity. It's seeing and being seen without illusion. There's also often a longing in October-born souls, a sense of something eternal calling from beyond the veil. You may find solace in the mystical, the symbolic, the poetic. Logic isn't enough. You need meaning that sings, not just explains. You are the dreamers, the seers, the ones who remember that life isn't just about goals, it's about grace. And yet, your feet are still on the ground. You are not abstract. You're not detached from this world. You're just not fooled by its surface. You are here to walk with beauty and truth, to hold life gently, knowing it's both fleeting and eternal, to remind others that the falling leaf is not the end, but the next, movement in a larger, wiser rhythm. Whether you arrived in September's stillness or October's golden winds, you are a soul of awareness. You see the patterns, the meanings, the sacredness beneath the ordinary. And while others may move fast, you move deep. You don't settle for noise. You want resonance. You want to live a life that isn't just full, but fulfilled. And in doing so, you help others slow down, look inward, and remember who they are. If you were born in November, your soul chose to arrive when the world is beginning to quiet down. The leaves have mostly fallen, The light has grown thin, and the earth seems to retreat inward. This is not the decay of death, but the preparation for rebirth. November whispers of mysteries not meant to be rushed, only felt. If you were born in this sacred threshold between autumn and winter, you may carry a similar inner gravity, an unshakable presence, a deep and penetrating awareness of the unseen. There is often an intensity to November-born souls. You may have been drawn to life's deeper waters from a young age, grappling with questions of mortality, purpose, power, and truth. You're not content with the superficial. You want to know what's real, even if it breaks illusions, even if it's uncomfortable. There is something in you that refuses to look away. And in a world that often numbs or distracts, your ability to remain present with truth, no matter how raw, is a kind of spiritual courage. Yet with that intensity often comes transformation. November carries the archetype of the phoenix, the one who burns down what no longer serves, not in destruction, but in devotion to rebirth. If you felt like your life moves through cycles of death and renewal more than most, you're not imagining it. Your soul came to do deep inner work, to confront what others might avoid, to transmute pain into wisdom and shadow into clarity. But this path can be lonely. Others may not always understand your depth. You may feel like you're too much, or that you carry emotions and insights that others aren't ready for. Yet your presence is needed. Not everyone can hold space for the darkness and the light. You can, and in doing so, you give others permission to face their own truths without fear. November also invites a profound relationship with power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that transforms. You are here to reclaim power that was lost, misused, or misunderstood, not just personally, but ancestrally. You may be called to heal trauma lines that run deep. And through that healing, you become a catalyst for others, not by preaching, but by embodying what it means to rise from your own ashes. Then comes December, the close of the calendar, the hush before the new cycle. If you were born in this time, you arrived with the energy of reflection, wisdom, and inner completion. December carries a sacred quietness, a space between what has been and what is to come. There's celebration, yes, but also reverence. And looking back, and looking within, December-born souls often carry old wisdom in young bodies. You may feel older than your years, not in weariness, but in knowing. There's a sense that you've been here before, not just in a past life sense, but in an archetypal way. You understand that life is more than striving, that growth isn't always visible, that the most sacred truths often emerge in stillness. You may be drawn to traditions, to rituals, to things that ground you in meaning. But your relationship to structure is not rigid, it's soulful. You honor what has come before, while still making room for the unknown. Spiritually, December asks, what legacy are you building? What truths are you carrying into the future, not just for you, but for the world? Because you come at the end of the cycle, you may often feel like an observer of life as much as a participant. You have a wide-angle lens on existence. You see patterns others miss. You understand that what ends is not lost, it's transformed. December energy teaches the sacredness of cycles, the beauty of endings, the invitation to let go with grace. And while you may have a quiet nature, don't mistake that for passivity. You hold deep strength, steady, thoughtful, rooted in vision. You are the ones who tend the flame when others have forgotten the fire. You are the keepers of memory, the carriers of wisdom, the ones who guide by essence more than explanation. You don't need to shout your truth, you are it. As we reflect on all 12 months, a deeper truth begins to unfold. No matter when you were born, the timing of your arrival was not random. Your birth month is not just a date, it is a doorway, a portal through which your soul entered, carrying unique qualities, lessons, and energies shaped by the rhythm of the earth and the pattern of time. These months are not just markers of time, They are expressions of consciousness. Each one a teacher, each one a mirror, each one a sacred invitation to live more fully, feel more deeply, and walk more consciously. If you were born in January, you carry the energy of the beginning, of intention, stillness, and hidden potential. February brings emotional depth and the ability to love what is unseen. March awakens rebirth and inner courage. April lights the fire of action and the spark of soul-driven purpose. May unfolds beauty and sensual connection to life. June reminds us of play, of curiosity, of opening the heart to joy. July invites emotional depth and the quiet strength of care. August empowers radiant presence and authentic leadership. September brings discernment, order, and the wisdom of simplicity. October teaches balance, beauty, and the courage to feel it all. November offers transformation, truth, and the fire of the phoenix. December reminds us of reflection, reverence, and timeless wisdom. Together, these energies create a spiritual map, not a rigid destiny, but a living guidance. Not a box to contain you, but a thread that can be followed inward. Because in the end, it's not the month that defines you. It's what you do with its invitation. Your birth month is a whisper from the cosmos, saying, "This is when your light is most needed. This is the tone your soul wants to sing. This is the rhythm your heart was tuned to." And once you begin to listen, not just with your ears, but with your life, something opens. Something ancient, something tender, something free. In Buddhist thought, everything arises in interdependence. Your birth was not isolated. It rippled through the field of time, shaped by karma, intention, and cause and effect. But it was also shaped by love, by a wisdom greater than words, and by a soul that said, "Now, this moment, this season, this is the time I will enter." So whether you were born into the blossoms of spring or the quiet of winter, the fire of summer or the harvest of fall, know that your life is part of something sacred, something rhythmic, something awake. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. You are not a random number on a calendar. You are a note in the great symphony of being, a breath in the lung of time, a spark in the unfolding story of awakening. And when you remember that, when you live from that knowing, you don't just walk through time, you dance with it. Special birth dates, seeds of profound karma. Have you ever looked at your birth date, really looked at it, and felt there was something more to it than a coincidence? As if the numbers themselves were a kind of code, a riddle you were born into, waiting to be unraveled? This idea isn't just mystical. It's archetypal, psychological, and deeply human. From the Buddhist lens, every moment of birth is the result of infinite conditions ripening together. Your birthday, down to the very digits, can be seen as a karmic timestamp, the flowering of causes and intentions, visible not only in the stars, but in the structure of time itself. Certain birth dates seem to echo louder than others. Repeating numbers, mirror dates, alignments that feel uncanny. Perhaps you were born on the 11th, the 22nd, or on a full moon. Perhaps your birth date is palindromic, like February 20th, or numerologically powerful, like 07/07. Maybe you were born on a holiday, or on the cusp between seasons. These dates are not better than others, but they may carry concentrated karmic signatures. They're like musical notes struck with extra resonance. They invite reflection, not superstition. From a Buddhist perspective, karma is neither fate nor judgment. It's intention, it's action, and most importantly, it's a mirror. Special birth dates may reflect that the soul entered this life carrying a particular weight, a mission, or a pattern of learning that required clarity. Like being born in a thunderstorm, it doesn't mean your life will be full of chaos, but it does suggest you're attuned to energies that many don't notice. You're here to work with depth, perhaps to resolve something that has lingered across lifetimes, or to plant seeds that will shape the collective field. Psychologically, Carl Jung spoke of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal a deeper pattern in life. A special birth date can be one. Such synchronicity, not random, not causal, but rich with significance. The unconscious recognizes symbols before the mind does, and numbers have always carried symbolic weight across cultures. 12 months, 7 days, 9 months of gestation. Numbers form the hidden scaffolding of time, and when they show up in meaningful ways in our birth date, they can function like archetypal fingerprints. But what does it mean to be born on a karmically potent date? It doesn't mean you're doomed to carry burdens, nor does it mean you're inherently enlightened. Rather, it means your life may unfold with invitations toward consciousness earlier or more intensely. You might feel things more deeply. You might see patterns more easily. You might carry a sense of destiny, not because you are special, but because you are especially sensitive to the invisible threads connecting everything. Many people born on these kinds of dates report feeling different from an early age, as if the world didn't quite fit, or they couldn't unsee the gap between what people said and what they meant. There is often a strong inner life, a draw towards solitude, symbolism, or spiritual inquiry. For some, this becomes a gift. For others, it begins as a burden. The turning point is awareness. When you understand that your birth date is not random but resonant, you can begin to ask deeper questions. What am I here to remember? What pattern am I here to heal? What quality of consciousness am I here to embody? The Buddhist teachings on vipaka, the fruit of karma, suggest that everything that ripens, including our very birth, arises from seeds sown long before. These aren't deterministic seeds. They can be nourished, redirected, transformed, but they are present. Special birth dates often indicate that a cluster of karmic seeds is ripening simultaneously. It's like entering life with a head start and a heavier suitcase, not as punishment, not as privilege, but as purpose. Let's look at repeating digits, dates like November 11th, December 12th, February 2nd. These mirror patterns have long been associated with spiritual awakenings. In numerology and mysticism, they're often seen as gateway numbers, doors to higher awareness. In a Buddhist view, these dates may indicate a karmic emphasis on integration, on bringing inner and outer realities into alignment. You may be here to resolve dualities, to stand at the intersection of paradoxes, to hold both logic and intuition, science and soul, form and emptiness. You are the mirror and the one who looks into it. Then there are palindromic or symmetrical dates, like 02/20 or 12/21. These suggest balance, but also cycles. If you were born on such a date, you may find that life presents you with repeated themes, like waves returning to shore. Not because you are stuck, but because you are meant to see them clearly enough to finally dissolve them. These patterns are not traps, they are invitations. You are not doomed to repeat. You are called to recognize. Other special dates include solstices, equinoxes, lunar events, or days of collective resonance like New Year's or major holidays. These times carry amplified collective energy. Being born in such moments may suggest that your soul has a role in the collective field. Your healing is not just personal, but generational, even planetary. This doesn't mean you have to save the world, but it may mean that when you heal, you radiate change outward, like a tuning fork shifting the vibration of the room. A key insight from Buddhist psychology is that the mind is not isolated. We are interbeing. Your birth is part of the cosmic net of conditions, and special birth dates may carry the imprint of being especially interconnected. You may find that your presence affects people more deeply, sometimes without words. You may draw out truths others didn't even know they carried, or absorb energies from the environment more quickly than most. You are not here to be overwhelmed by this sensitivity. You are here to transmute with it. In the West, We often associate uniqueness with status. But from a dharmic perspective, uniqueness is simply a reflection of function. A bell chimes, a stream flows, a tree offers shade. Your particular configuration of birth, your karmic blueprint, is not for comparison. It's for contribution. The question is not, what makes me special, but what has life trusted me with? And that's the essence of these special dates. They are not badges. They are assignments. To live awake, to love deeply, to see clearly, to walk gently, to feel life not just at the surface, but from the roots. There's something else. Many people with special birth dates also experience thresholds in life. Early losses, health challenges, moments that brought them to the edge, sometimes of despair, sometimes of wonder. These thresholds are part of the karmic fabric, not as punishment, but as portal. They create the crack through which the light enters. They deepen the well so that it can hold more stillness. They are not anomalies, they are initiations. In that light, it helps to ask, what patterns have repeated in your life? What dates, numbers, or cycles keep returning? What emotions show up like old friends or old teachers? Rather than seeing your birth date as static, try seeing it as a seed mantra, something that echoes forward, a vibration that can guide your choices, not as fate, but as frequency. The truth is, everyone's birth date is sacred. Every entrance into this life is a miracle of timing, karma, and grace. But if your birthday contains unusual patterns, repeating numbers, or culturally charged dates, it may be worth sitting with that, not for answers, but for resonance. What parts of your life have mirrored the complexity or clarity of that date? What have you come to understand, not just with your mind, but with your whole being? Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The wave does not have to die to become water." In the same way, you don't have to do something grand to fulfill your karmic purpose. You simply have to remember who you already are and live from that place. Special birth dates are not maps, they are invitations to go inward, to live outward, to walk the middle path. They remind us that our lives are not isolated events, but chords in a larger song. That every number, every breath, every moment is part of a great unfolding. And when you begin to trust that your birth, in all its symbolism, was not an accident, then something inside begins to shift. You don't just survive, you align. You don't just chase meaning, you become it. The symbolism of Pisces, the fish in all traditions. The image of the fish has glided through the waters of myth, scripture, and psyche since time immemorial. Across cultures and religions, the fish swims quietly, yet insistently, into the core of spiritual meaning. For Pisces, this ancient archetype is not just a zodiac sign. It is a symbol of something far older and more universal, the soul's longing to return home. In the Buddhist tradition, water represents consciousness in its fluid, formless nature. The fish, dwelling fully immersed in this element, is a fitting metaphor for the mind that navigates the sea of samsara, the cycle of birth and rebirth. But unlike most creatures, the fish does not resist the water. It moves with it. And that, in many ways, is the first teaching of Pisces. To flow rather than force. To yield rather than grasp. To let go and become what you truly are. This quality of surrender has been misunderstood in a world that glorifies control. But spiritual traditions remind us, it is often through surrender that we discover the vastness of the self beyond the ego. In early Christian symbolism, the fish became a hidden sign of the faith, the Greek word ichthys forming an acronym for Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. In a time of persecution, the fish was both refuge and recognition. Its shape drawn in sand conveyed, wordlessly, a shared devotion. Even here, the fish carried dual meaning, invisibility and belonging, presence and mystery, much like the Piscean spirit. In Hindu cosmology, the first avatar of Vishnu was Matsya, the great cosmic fish who warned of a coming flood and guided humanity to safety. In this myth, the fish becomes a vessel of wisdom and divine protection. In Taoist philosophy, the koi fish symbolizes perseverance through adversity, eventually transforming into a dragon, the ultimate image of transcendence. And in ancient Egyptian religion, fish were sacred to goddess Neith, keeper of creation and cosmic order. From these traditions, we see a recurring theme. The fish is not only a symbol of survival, but of transformation. It moves through realms others fear to enter, deep waters, subconscious currents, murky unknowns. Pisces, likewise, is often drawn to what others avoid, the unseen, the spiritual, the emotional depths that defy easy language. It is the sign of the mystic, the dreamer, the one who remembers that life is not always what it seems on the surface. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a vast ocean of archetypes and inherited memory that shapes our thoughts and behaviors. The fish, he noted, was a symbol that emerged often in dreams and visions, pointing to an inner journey toward wholeness. In Jungian terms, Pisces could be seen as the soul's movement toward individuation, not by climbing, but by dissolving, by remembering its oneness. With all, there's something paradoxical about fish. They are ancient and elusive, fragile yet adaptable, capable of disappearing into currents with barely a ripple. This paradox lives in Pisces. Those born under this sign are often described as sensitive, intuitive, even psychic, not because they know more, but because they feel more. They tune into the subtleties of emotional and spiritual energy the way a fish senses the vibrations of water. This attunement can feel like both a gift and a burden, but when embraced, it becomes a profound tool for compassion, for healing, and for connection. In a world increasingly defined by speed, noise, and certainty, Pisces offers a return to mystery, a gentle reminder that some truths are only understood through stillness, through silence, through surrender. The fish does not fight the current. It finds the sacred path beneath it. And so, the Piscean journey is often one of faith, not blind belief, but an inner knowing that transcends logic. Many Pisceans report feeling like they don't quite belong in the world. They sense something beyond it, a deeper reality, a home that isn't defined by place or name. This longing can become escapism, addiction, or chronic confusion when misunderstood. But when channeled with mindfulness, it becomes a powerful compass pointing toward the sacred. Pisces is not about withdrawal, it's about remembering. Remembering that the material world is not all there is, that there's a song beneath the silence, that to feel deeply is not weakness, but wisdom. Buddhism teaches the idea of no self, anatta, the understanding that what we cling to as a fixed identity is actually a fluid, changing process. Pisces embodies this directly. It resists labels. It shape-shifts. It dissolves boundaries between self and other, past and future, form and emptiness. And while this can feel disorienting at times, it also offers liberation. The fish teaches us that freedom doesn't come from hardening into identity. It comes from moving with life's currents without fear. In this way, Pisces reminds us of the spiritual principle of interbeing, that we do not exist separately, that our pain, our joy, our awakening is interwoven with the breath of all beings. When one suffers, we all suffer. When one heals, the whole field moves. This sensitivity is not sentimentality, it is sacred responsiveness. It is what allows a Piscean to offer presence that doesn't try to fix, but simply witnesses, and in doing so, transforms. Pisces also invites us to live symbolically, to see the fish not just as an animal, but as an archetype of how the soul navigates the invisible. In dream analysis, The fish often appears when something deep within is ready to emerge, an emotion long repressed, a calling long denied, a truth long forgotten. Pisces doesn't force this emergence. It listens. It creates space. It holds the silence long enough for what is true to rise. In the end, the fish reminds us of our origins, not just biologically, but spiritually. We all come from water, from the great womb of the universe. We all long to return, not to regress, but to reunite. Pisces holds this longing not as a weakness, but as a sacred thread. It is the pull of the tide, the echo of the divine, the whisper that says, "Come home." And so the fish swims, quietly, not to escape, but to remember. It reminds us that the most powerful movements are often the gentlest, that the deepest truths are rarely loud, and that to live from the heart is to trust a rhythm older than thought. There is no coincidence, only awakening. Have you ever paused and looked at the details of your life? Not just the major milestones, but the quiet symbols, the patterns, the timings, and wondered, was that really an accident? The month you were born, the specific day, the energies that seem to follow you, repeat around you. Could all of it be part of a deeper intelligence, gently trying to get your attention? What if nothing is random? What if your birth month, your karmic number, even the recurring symbols in your dreams or the strange coincidences in your days are not accidents at all, but invitations? What if life isn't trying to test you, but to wake you up? This journey through time, through months and meanings, numbers and symbols, karma and intuition, has never really been about prediction. It's not about boxes or labels. It's about remembrance. A return to a quieter knowing that you were never lost to begin with. You were never born at the wrong time, in the wrong body, or on the wrong path. You were born exactly when and where you needed to be, so that your soul could find its way home. In Buddhist teachings, nothing exists independently. All things arise due to conditions. So your birth, far from random, was a convergence of infinite causes. You are not a static being. You are a dynamic unfolding. And your birth date is not just a calendar fact. It's a mirror, a map, a mantra. It reflects your beginning, but also your invitation to see, to grow, to return. From the quiet waters of Pisces to the symbolic echo of your karmic number, from the sacred alignment of special birth dates to the deeper meanings woven through your month of birth. Everything has been guiding you not toward a final answer, but toward a new kind of seeing. A shift from asking, "Why me?" to realizing, "Oh, now I see." That moment when patterns become presence, when fate becomes freedom, when repetition becomes revelation. Perhaps that's the real power of these ancient systems, not to predict your future, but to help you fully inhabit your present, not to define you, but to help you discover who you are beyond all definitions. You are not your past, your pain, or your pattern. You are the awareness that holds it all, the vast, compassionate space in which it arises and fades. You are not here to control the ocean. You are here to learn how to move with its rhythm, and in doing so, become it. So take a breath, a deep, conscious one. Let this journey settle not just in your mind, but in your body. Let it echo. Not everything will land at once, and that's okay. Awakening is not a lightning bolt. Often, it is a gentle ripple, a subtle shift, a quiet return to the place you never truly left. And if something in this journey has stirred a memory, a curiosity, a resonance, honor that. Stay with it. Let it deepen. Let it take you to the next doorway, the next question, the next gentle awakening. Because the truth is, this isn't the end of the journey. It's a threshold, one of many, and each one reveals just a little more of who you are and why you are here. If this message has touched you, if even a single idea helped you feel more seen, more connected, more awake, I invite you to stay with this path. Subscribe to the Awakened Pathway. Share this with someone whose soul might need to hear it. Leave a note, a reflection, a whisper from your journey, and explore the other videos waiting here for you. They are seeds, not answers. Questions, not conclusions. And perhaps they are exactly what your next step needs. You weren't born by chance. You were born with rhythm, with reason, with remembrance. And now, maybe you're ready to live with awareness. And if that's true, don't just feel it. Stay with us. Subscribe now and walk this path together.